As far as the workshop goes, Joe, that's gonna change in dynamic this year, correctly?
Yep.
If I understood you correctly,
Yep.
privately, that the budget's not gonna look the same this year.
Correct.
So if there is a workshop, it's going to be a very condensed version, pretty much to come to pick on a point and not the whole, if I'm
Yes.
not stealing your thunder
Nope,
there.
you're-
So that doesn't concern me. I think the whole evening thing is legitimate. I personally think we'll see very little attendance, but I'm sure willing to try it. And if people aren't open to 7:30 in the morning, I'm fine with that. As far as staffing goes, that can be logistically worked out with somebody else getting an afternoon off or a morning off or whatever. I think the front can be open, just as it is now. So I don't see any logistical problems with facilitating that. I would agree that 6 o'clock would be preferred over 5 o'clock, simply because I know that at my house, the criticism of some of these open meetings has been there've been 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and a lot of people aren't even off work yet, so they're not really that accommodating. So I would favor 6 for a trial basis of, Mike says, as long as we're not changing the days, we can change the hours. So I have no problem starting in January saying 6 in the evening.
Would you be opposed to one meeting at 6 and the other one still left at noon? Or do you want them both at the same time?
Are you saying going forward, like for the whole year?
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't like that
I
idea.
would not be in favor of that.
I think it's
Just,
important to
throwing
be
that out there.
consistent,
Okay.
but I don't have children in sporting events either. I don't have grandkids in sporting events, so I don't know, I'm not here to screw up anybody's life.
Well, that's a good point about Tuesdays.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're gonna go in the evening, you're talking about high school athletics on Tuesday nights,
yeah.
You're talking about,
which isn't necessarily gonna affect us greatly, but in terms of making these meetings available,
I would note though that of the department heads, the ones that had issues with it, they said like if you already worked a full day, then it would be kind of a pain to come. A couple of them said that, but again, you can flex that. But of the citizens, and there weren't that many, but they were consistent for the night, so.
There's, if you remember the discussion we had last time, I mean, there is no reason why you couldn't say our meetings are staying as is, but you have a quarterly council meeting, special meeting in the evening time and see what happens. Not much differently than what you did at the golf course for the community development plan a couple months ago. That was a special meeting that anybody could attend. You could do a couple of those in the evening, and if you have people lined up out the door, then maybe you want to revisit this and actually change it.
And you talked about town halls, that
Yeah,
that would somewhat facilitate. I'm okay with that.
And I'm willing to do-
Quarterly, we throw a 6 in the evening meeting in there.
Most of the time, people are listening to the topic thing. You're gonna wait for board meetings to talk about those.
No, because they're gonna show up, when it affects their neighborhood, they're showing up.
A lot of times.
That's history.
A lot of times.
But nobody else shows up when it's my neighborhood, or, well, take the Abbey, take, Norham,
Yeah.
the neighborhood showed up, and I understand that, but
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's kind of the result we're gonna end up with, but,
And I'm-
but I would be totally open to a quarterly evening meeting. I would be open to that.
And it wouldn't have, if you called those special meetings, that wouldn't have to be a Tuesday. It could be a Monday, it could be a Thursday. You could do whatever you wanted to do.
But it would count as the council because we didn't.
Wouldn't have
no,
to.
no.
Wouldn't have
Yeah, I
to.
think it would be
So
just
I-
a special meeting.
I guess I would lean towards, I'd like to do the 6 o'clocks and we can still do a quarterly, let's get together, come in, kumbaya, bring the public in meeting. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of like mixing it up a lot. I haven't missed a meeting yet. And I won't, that's because that was my commitment, but it just makes it a little easier on at least my job. In my personal life, I'm gonna miss the Tuesday night cycle rides, I'll give those up. This
But,
one a
but,
month,
but on that, Mark, if you moved it to 6, which you said you'd favor that, right?
Yes.
Then
I would have
then you're
zero
opening the
issues
door,
on my job.
then you're opening the door for the public all the time, which is fine, but then there is no need for a special one.
Yeah.
There would be, you would eliminate the need for any special ones.
Unless we pick out a topic.
I sure wouldn't
right?
wanna do 3 nights a month
But I would favor, Mark, and I
with what I got going on with
I
kids.
appreciate the effort you
stuff.
put into this, I really do. I think consistency is important, but I would favor once a quarter, the first or the second Tuesday, whatever, third Tuesday, making it a 6 in the evening meeting and seeing what happens. I have no problem with that.
I would leave it with Mike's suggestion, leave it the way it is now, and then when we need a quarterly meeting, call it when it's convenient for all of us and the community to come in and meet.
Like budget workshop
Yeah.
and, those
Yeah.
kinds of things.
Okay.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'd be more in favor.
And I am not opposed to doing some town hall meetings in the evening, and if one of you can come or 2 of you can come, we'll see who shows up, see who's got.
Yeah, I mean, I
input.
don't think it necessarily, I don't think it has to be limited. I think we can just have a special meeting. That way we're all there and we can all hear it.
Or whoever shows up, shows up.
Yeah. But then you run into quorum to have it as an official meeting. I
Well,
don't
no, if
think
it's
that's an issue.
officially, if it's set as an official town hall, you would be a meeting.
Right, but if were you talking about council members showing up, or, but if you don't have a quorum, then we wouldn't be able to take any action, and maybe these wouldn't have any action items on them anyway, but, one of the, I mean, I go back to what I said, the last time, I think the important thing here is that we're trying, whether we're successful or not, is, at least we can say we're trying to encourage citizen participation. That's one of the things that all of the, has been a little bit disappointing to me is, you go around town and you hear about, well, I heard the city's doing this. No, that's not right. Or I heard the city's doing that. No, that's not what's happening. And so from a communication standpoint, if nothing else, would, try to give, and I appreciate what, KLEM and the Sentinel do, but, I get a little disappointed that we don't get more community involvement, to be perfectly honest, and that's not an indictment on anybody in this room, because you're all here all the time, but,
Well, maybe even with the cable access, right? I mean, we would be broadcasting at night when people are
Sure.
not working. So
Sure.
even if they didn't come here, they might watch it more. I don't know how many people actually take the trouble to go look it up on YouTube. I just feel like there's so many shifts of work in certain places, but the majority, the bulk of the people that, at least that responded to this, their work is during the day. And so,
How many responded, Mark?
it was like 6.
Okay.
But I've had a couple just talk to me, so.
I received a couple of comments that it would be better in the afternoon, but there was only 3 people.
afternoon as in,
Evening?
5
Yeah,
o'clock?
evening I meant. but-
Okay.
I will say there were three people that liked it and 1 person that loved it but didn't vote. So they like the fact that we're talking about changing it up and doing something about it. That, I don't know, it's for what it's worth.
and by the way, I do want to recognize Tuesday evenings are difficult for Rob and for Mike with their
Yeah.
high school
My,
kids, but
What's on Tuesday nights?
basketball. Well, high school sports, yeah, Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays.
And the only reason I brought up the running thing is I had a couple people approach me that might be interested in running for council but can't do the noon meetings.
Which ward were they from?
So that's why, yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, who is it?
I might change my mind.
No, just they approached me about maybe being interested in council, and that's why I brought it up the last meeting about council.
Oh, I think that's a valid concern, and I think I would want to express to those people that this can be changed,
Yeah, and I told
but
them, I said,
I don't think
work on it.
there's a necessary to change it if we don't have to, I guess, and if, for no reason, so.
But I would also express to those people that I appreciate anybody that's got an interest. I encouraged a gal that hit me up at the hospital. She says, I've kind of thought I should do it, just run. But the other thing they need to understand is this is just one part of it. This is one
There's a lot of
meeting.
meetings.
It can tend to be more meetings a month, and those usually are not gonna accommodate an evening. So, I mean, that's gotta be factored in too. I would totally support just hearing the discussion, leaving it as it is, but I would like to either formally or whatever quarterly have an evening meeting and kind of throw it out there and say, hey, show up showing it, whatever. So I would support either way, but
I think we could
I'm
kick
okay
it off
with
with the
the-
budget workshop because that's a hot topic. It should be. It should be well attended
Yeah.
by the public, but.
And I would be in favor of that also. What would you, for a town hall, what sort of an agenda would you anticipate? Just,
Kind of find out what's coming up on the next month's council agendas and float those out there.
as.
Let people
and-
know.
And then, yeah, I mean, again, I'm all about, all in favor of more communication, but are we talking about having action items, consent items? Are we, what type of business would be conducted in those?
Yeah.
Or is it just an open forum?
Well, I think it's more of an open forum, which.
I mean, that's what I would
Which
see.
that we can't do in a council meeting,
Right.
You have a limited time to have a discussion.
I
And you
completely agree
can't
with you.
act
That's-
on anybody's input. but-
So with those comments, then I would go against what I was previously thinking, and I wouldn't have a problem with the first one being noon, the second one being evening for the year. We can load up the calendar on the night one if you want. At least that way it gives people an opportunity to come more than just once every 3 months. Like they say, if you want to raise chickens on your pickleball court, come in and talk to us. I'm trying not to make too light of it, but they don't have to wait too long, I'm saying, for the topic to get them here.
Okay. Lori, what were you gonna say?
I agree with Brad. I think having a town meeting, like quarterly, to talk about whatever you want to talk about would be a great idea. That way, gossip, things that aren't correct can get rectified. I think if somebody's passionate about a topic that's coming up, they'll come. When we have certain things that come to city council, they're here. So, but I do love the idea of having a town meeting just to, say, this is what we're doing, and get some feedback, and then you can do with what you guys want to do.
Sure. Okay. So, is that a formal motion, or do we just continue on as is, with what your information?
There's no motion for a
I
change.
didn't make
The
a
matter,
motion.
the matter could just die.
Okay.
If someone wants to make a motion, then we can vote on that.
Right.
I'm gonna make a motion whether it dies or not. I'd make a motion that the first meeting of the month stay at noon, the second meeting be at 6 and 9. For good or bad, that's my motion,
Starting when?
starting in January.
Okay.
We have a motion on that. Anybody, the second?
And if it dies on the second, that's fine. Just wanted to make the motion.
I appreciate your motion, but I can't because I think consistency is pretty important, and I think an extra meeting once in a while to accommodate that, because we've seen it time and time again. When an issue affects someone, that's when they show up. And I have a hard time believing people are gonna show up just at random to listen in.
So the quarterly meetings would be not in addition, it would be,
Well, we could move it, we could move it. I
I can
think,
work that out after the first of the year, if that's what you want.
I would favor moving it, and instead of having a citizen, you might have an open mic in that meeting. Quarterly, it's at 6 in the evening, and, have an open mic and encourage people to come. And if you're ticked off about odd even parking, come tell us about it. If you're happy about, ice cream days, you can come tell us about it. So, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I do, so, yeah, I'm not in a second.
All right. Safe to say that motion did not gain support. Okay, we move on to discussion items. Jason?
Okay. Highway Business 75 specialized, anticipated pouring at the west patches today. And then it's being poured with M4, so it should be opened in 24 hours.
Quick open.
And then he's, within that same block, moving to the east side, so northbound, and start working on that. And then from there, just start playing it by ear, as long as the weather holds out.
As long as, if it needs another day to cure, I'd rather do that than,
Well, M4 is built for that.
okay.
And it's a quick set. Curiosity on that, when I suggested last week about just doing it all at one time. I don't care that
Did these things.
we're not doing it that way, but I am curious, and I have not been asked, this is my question, what are the limits on gimme work versus bid work? Specialized does a phenomenal job, but are we reaching out to multiple others and saying we have other spots we want work done on? I want to be fair about it. I can think of 3 or 4 different concrete people. I want it done right. I want it done quality. I want them to have to back it up for a while. But there's got to be limits on gimme work and how much we have to spend on gimme work. By that I mean not bid work.
Repairs and maintenance are not subject to bid.
Okay,
Is the number one thing.
okay,
So
okay, I didn't know if it went by it. So,
Not
Yeah, and
subject
we've,
to or not
yeah, just
required.
I mean, we've kind of
Just, yeah.
stuck with Specialized through this entire process because they've been involved from the very beginning.
okay,
So we've kind of worked to figure out what we need to do.
Okay.
So I would be a little hesitant, maybe to bring somebody new in, but
okay.
At least on that project. I know there've been other projects we've had around town that other concrete contractors have done.
And I'm fine with that, Jason, because he does a dang good job. I mean, so I'm fine with that, but I was just kind of curious where that all,
yeah.
and as long as you're on 75, and I don't want to throw you off your, but as long as you're on 75, can we get some new paint configurations by T-Mobile? When you are headed northbound on Business 75 in there by McDonald's and T-Mobile, we can use up a ton of that dead painted median. There's no median there, it's just paint. And make a turning lane going into T-Mobile. I would think when the hospital comes around, we're gonna want it anyway. I'd like to look at a new paint deal because people who are turning to go to T-Mobile or that tan world really kind of can screw up traffic. Bumgars and McDonald's is bad enough, but it's getting worse when you're coming. You follow me?
Yeah, I'm thinking of that, Clark. We
should have room.
well, we did a study.
Before either of those businesses were there.
And that was 3 options. I'll have to look back at that study. That wasn't that long ago.
Okay.
But one of our options was putting a turning lane, just like they did on Highway 3.
To head west.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about doing that all the way from Highway 3. Actually, the DOT wanted to do it north, all the way to the south limits. That was one of the options, was to cut it down to 1 travel lane, put a suicide lane in the middle, but we never acted on that.
Well, I think what he's saying is-
But wasn't it determined that there's absolutely no turning going towards the tracks?
Yes.
From 18,
Well,
24,
yeah, so
there's
from there
no
you-
turning.
Yeah, so from there, the only thing it would benefit is somebody wanting to turn west into the Bumgars and all those on that side.
Right.
I mean, so it wouldn't be a waste. It'd be a waste. It wouldn't be a waste. But for some reason, we decided to not do
Okay,
anything.
I don't remember that, honestly, I don't, so. Anyway,
In that area though, like Clark's saying, there is already area for a turning lane there.
So there's room for 4 lanes plus a turning lane, is that what
yeah,
you're
they're
saying?
in the center.
Right, so we wouldn't have to go down to 3 lanes total.
Right,
Because I don't
just
like
for that area, because I've come across it 2 or 3 times, where you got people coming.
Would that be something that you should send to the safety committee with the new?
Well, we could. I'm gonna look
clinic
up
going
what
in
we
there
did not
especially?
that long ago. We looked at it.
I think we put it off because of the community development plan. It was supposed to be an overall encompassing thing, so we just never talked more about it.
Actually, right.
I don't think anyone liked it.
I know, I didn't like, I would say the same thing about here, like when I'm going north on Central and I get to turn toward the fire station, I thought that was a turning lane already. You'd go over and use that and get out of the travel lane, but it was pointed out to me that that's just a no man's land.
For bicycles, Mark.
But I mean, well, so I mean, that makes sense there too. That'd be a great spot to just throw a little arrow and say you can get out of the way of people trying to go north on Central.
So I'm sorry, Clark, which direction were you talking about on 75? Old 75?
You're coming from Hy-Vee.
Going north.
And you're headed north.
Okay.
Okay. And then you want to go to that Tan World, you want
Yeah.
to go to T-Mobile, you want to go to that.
McDonald's, Baumgart's, yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Total Motors, so,
Maybe it's not working.
Not that far.
I don't know. Maybe it's
Okay.
not working. I just know I've seen it plugged up a little bit recently. Maybe I'm just hitting it wrong. Maybe I need to get my Christmas tree at another time. Get out of my way!
Okay, so, yeah, so that's Highway Business 75. Scott Knipe had sent out that email Friday, I think, about the reason for closing 12th Street there by Verizon there. So that's still closed, and it's gonna be closed for a little bit yet.
What was the reason?
That was the mast, so the traffic pole and the mast that goes across, there is a crack where the mast meets the pole. So it's weak right now. So he closed it in case it drops, but next week there's a contractor to come in to weld that. And then a new pole and mast is ordered, but that's 4 to 6 months out. So once it's welded and approved for safety, he'll open that back up.
so 50-mile-an-hour winds don't take it down.
That's where that deductible comes in.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good today.
Yeah, 45-mile-an-hour wind might
I'd
not help.
put some duct tape on it and leave that.
Then we can claim wind damage.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the news.
Well, let the insurance company buy some one.
The next thing,
Still here.
yeah,
I know, that's why I said it.
the next thing is the airport. Vanderpool does have some concrete poured, but that, I'm assuming, I haven't heard anything different. They'll continue to work on that as long as they can to hopefully get all that concrete done. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up, now that the election is over, I just wanted everybody to know here and public-wise that, because I've noticed it random spots, Chapter 152, the political signs, they're supposed to be removed within 10 days after an election, so